Welcome to Silver Pros. I am Yankee Stacking, and I'm here with my good friend Silver Dragons.
Hey, what's up?
Are we wrong about the demand for silver?
The demand. I like that. I'm still buying silver. I would say a lot of us stackers, we're demanding it. We're wanting more physical silver. So I know I'm demanding it. Are you, Yankee?
Absolutely. I bought some silver from SD Bullion just last week. But do you think silver is a critical metal?
Oh my goodness, critical.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it depends on how you define it, right? Is it critical for us stackers to be buying and holding? I would say yes. Is it critical if you're a prepper, right? And you want something to barter with? I would say silver and gold, they both are critical. But when the government looks at silver, is it used extensively for energy? At this point, not so much. What about the military?
Mm-hmm.
Not so much. Is it super scarce? Not so much. So I would say probably from a government standpoint, probably not.
So I think this is important for silver stackers to understand. There is a distinction. It would have to be strategic to our nation's military and our industrial complex.
Okay.
For it to be critical, it would also have to be critical for our military and our economy. And one other thing, it would have to be very scarce and what they call an at-risk resource.
Okay.
Okay, so that's when the government will declare, either through Congress or executive order, this is a critical and strategic metal or resource, and we have to protect it.
But for the last 2 years in a row, according to the Silver Institute, there actually has been a net deficit in available silver. So let me break it down for you.
Okay.
The previous 11 years, every single year there was a surplus. So they mined more silver than was used. This is globally. For the last 2 years, we've used more silver than was mined. And a lot of this has to do with solar panels and other industrial demand. But specifically, when we look at solar panels, right now, about 12% of all the silver that's being mined, or 120 million ounces, is what is needed for solar panels. So if that demand for that particular technology does increase, we certainly could get to a point where silver is very scarce. Right now, it's 120 million, right? But
Right.
according to the Silver Institute, in 2027, it's going to be 200 million a year. And by 2050, it could be close to 1 billion ounces needed for solar panels. So they're really expecting that to ramp up. But yeah, obviously right now, it's not making a terribly large dent.
I read that the International Energy Agency said there is 100% of the silver needed to make all the solar power that we need right now, right? And
Sure.
who knows in the future if the mining operation ramps up, if we get more, whatever. If silver was strategic and critical, we couldn't fulfill the industrial demand for solar panel production. I've heard there is 5.5 billion, that's with a B, 5.5 billion ounces in refined silver above ground right now. So
Wow.
I know, right?
And this is silver that's in exchanges, right? We're talking LBMA, COMEX,
Yes.
Shanghai Exchange. This is not necessarily
Refined.
silver that us stackers are holding, but it's in stockpiles, correct?
Good point. It's not necessarily this stuff right in front of us that we love, but it's refined silver and it's above ground. And so from a scarcity standpoint, Dragons, it doesn't fit the critical and strategic criteria, but it's really important. So
Yeah.
we should get back to the video's question, though. Are we wrong about the demand for silver? A lot of pundits are saying that, we're going to run out of silver. And they do. And we're running out. There's a silver shortage.
With 5.5 billion ounces, they say we're going to run out.
Exactly. See, they love to lump the investment demand of silver in with the industrial and the fabrication demand for the white metal. And I don't know if that's the right way to look at it. I think a good way to look at the silver market is to look at supply minus the industrial demand first. And when you measure it that way, the silver market really isn't in a deficit. It's actually a surplus. Right now, mine production is greater than fabrication demand by around 70 to 80 million ounces.
Wow. And we are the ones buying up those 80 million ounces, right?
That's where
Retail
a good
demand.
part of that 80 million ounces is going right in here, baby.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So silver demand is primarily industrial, but some of it gets siphoned off as investments in silver coins, silver bars, and also silver ETFs.
If we take all of the retail demand for bullion, we take the ETFs, we remove that from the equation, then there's plenty of silver for industry, and it's not likely we're going to see silver become critical or strategic in the next few years, possibly even decades.
Here's something that's really crazy, Dragons. When the silver market has an industrial surplus, investors start to soak it up. And that increased bid in the silver papers market, at least, helps drive the spot price of silver up. So
what?
I know. This is pretty wild. Surpluses in the silver market actually correspond with higher silver prices, and deficits in the supply of industrial physical silver correspond with lower prices.
Okay. This seems completely backwards. Now, I know you're talking about the paper markets.
Right.
Because for us stackers, when we think about buying physical silver, we think about, okay, if there's not very much available, the price will go up. We think lower supply equals higher prices, which is true for most commodities. Look at American Silver Eagles. The United States Mint stopped making as many, and the prices skyrocketed. And then once they started making more, well, prices normalized. But you're saying for paper silver and the industrial silver demand,
yes,
that it's the other way around.
Because when retail investors and big institutional investors sell the silver contracts, the industrial demand tends to eat up that silver supply. It goes back and forth between the two. It's fascinating, but you need to understand the dual nature of this volatile metal. All right.
Okay, so we got industrial demand. Let's talk about investor demand. I think most of us are interested in that because we're actually buying silver, right? Is there a tipping point historically in investment demand where the price of silver shoots back up?
Yeah. So what I've heard and read is that when the investment demand for physical silver gets over about 100 million ounces in any given year, that's when you see the price jump. And as I said earlier, right now in 2023, we're seeing a demand at around 70 to 80 million ounces from institutional and retail investors. So 70, 80, around 100 is when it really takes off.
So back in 2020, when COVID happened, obviously there was a lot more demand, more than 100 million ounces in that year.
Yep.
And we saw silver go up to $28, $29 an ounce. So that makes sense.
Right.
And then this happened again in 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. There was much more than 100 million ounce demand for that particular year.
Yeah.
And we saw prices go up again to around $27, $28 an ounce.
There was record highs for physical silver demand. Bars, silver coins, they hit a new high of almost, I think it was 333 million ounces. That was up 22% year on year. And industrial demand went up a lot too. But here's the deal. At the same time last year, silver holdings in ETFs started to drop a lot. In fact, that was one of the largest ETF outflows in over a decade, falling by 11% year on year. So here's the deal, Dragons. If we had another economic crisis, if we had another health crisis, oh my word, don't let me go there. If we had another political crisis, because we know what's happening next year in 2024, it could easily drive up that investment side of silver much higher.
Yeah, I could see how if the lay public started buying more silver,
Hmm.
right? If we saw the talking heads on TV start saying, you need to buy silver, you need to buy gold, more people would pile on, and we certainly would see the price go up. And you're saying we need to tip over that 100 million ounce mark
That's a good
for
rule of
retail
thumb. Yep.
demand
Hmm.
to actually see the price start to spike. Really interesting.
It's the institutional and retail investors that can really, really spark a
We can
rally.
move the needle,
We
Yankee. We
can.
can do it. One thing I want to bring up is that Jerome Powell, he just spoke, and he actually changed the verbiage around inflation, which is really interesting. So 2% inflation was the target. That was the words they would use. It's a target.
Yep.
Now they've started saying 2% inflation is the goal, right? So it's not as strict. They're not really held to it as much.
Oh, man.
So I think we're going to land somewhere around 2.5% inflation, which means inflation will win. The Fed did not win the battle. Now, there still may be another rate hike in December. We don't really know at this point, but there still is a lot of uncertainty out there. And certainly, if there are any crises, we could see a lot more demand for silver and price go up sooner rather than later.
I agree.
Are you still sticking to your end of the year price target, Yankee?
I'm gonna hold. I'm gonna hold to it. $25 an ounce. How about you?
Well, silver right now is in the $23 range. And last year, when we made our predictions, I was thinking the Fed would start cutting rates sooner, right? It's looking like they're not going to start cutting rates till at the soonest next summer. It is an election year. They're going to want everything to look, legit. And so it is possible next year they start slashing rates and we see gold and silver prices go up at that point. So my prediction for $32 an ounce, I think I'm just going to push that back a year. Towards the end of the year next year, we certainly could see much higher prices.
I agree. Now is the time to get in on building your silver stack.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time on Silver Pros.
Stack like a pro.
Yeah.